Hi, I'm Aileen. Welcome back to my channel. This is Homeschool with the Clarks. Today, I want to share with you Moving Beyond the Page Language Arts for 8th grade, which is ages 12 to 14. I'm going to show you everything that it comes with, and then I'll give you a flip through of some of the workbooks so you can get a feel for what's included and if it's going to be the right fit for your kiddo. So let's start with the novels that it comes with. It's a lot of books. So just keep that in mind. And it doesn't mean you have to do every single one. Let me show you. What I like about Moving Beyond the Page, they're good at putting together a variety of books with different genres. So they'll include science fiction, they'll include nonfiction, they'll include historical fiction, they'll include fantasy, like all the genres, usually like short stories or poetry, things like that. And again, this is just for language arts. We're not using them for science or social studies. Okay, so first book, Abigail Adams. This is a nonfiction book. It is very, very thick and hefty. So that's what you start with at the beginning of the year. And then we have Animal Farm, The Story of Science. Again, another really big, hefty book. So some of them are big, but then Animal Farm super short. So it does come with the handy guide to writing, which is just like a little booklet. It's very colorful. To Kill a Mockingbird, The Book Thief, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Watership Down, The House of the Scorpion, 100 Great American Poet, Elijah of Buxton. So as you can see, it is a good mix of different types of books. The books are definitely more challenging. They're definitely challenging my 8th graders so far, but in a good way. It's good to challenge them and have them read harder stuff and do some literary analysis. And that is what this year is all about. So now let's look at one of the workbooks. Every single novel comes with a workbook, okay? So I have this box here from Moving Beyond the Page, and everything is just living in the box, and I just pull out one workbook and one novel at a time. That is all I'm doing because you don't need all of these sitting out. You only need one at a time, okay? So you can see it says age 12 to 14. This is for The Book Thief. It's for semester 2 and unit 3. So you can kind of look there to see where they are in the year as far as the order that Moving Beyond the Page curated them in. Now, you can jump around and do these in any order that you want. In years past, I've just purchased a couple of their units to have my son read, and we haven't done all of them. So you can definitely do that. You can skip around a little bit if you need to, but yeah, let's just go through it. So we have Beyond the Page, and it's interesting. When I first started using them, I swear everywhere it said Moving Beyond the Page, but now they call themselves Beyond the Page, but it is Moving Beyond the Page. So sorry if I'm confusing you with that, but Beyond the Page and Moving Beyond the Page, they're the same company. Yeah, it says Beyond the Page up here too, but then their website is Moving Beyond the Page. Anyway, so if you are doing the science and social studies and you decide to jump around, that might make it a little more confusing because the novels do tie in with what they're learning in science and social studies. So just keep that in mind. But it doesn't matter as much if you're only using them for language arts. So at the beginning of it, it tells you the lessons, and it is, I believe it's made to last about 3 weeks for each lesson. There's 12 lessons plus a final project, which is 3 days long. And the first lesson is 2 days long. So we've been doing them in about 4 weeks. It does start with a how to use page. That's more for the parents, and the vocabulary. This is all the vocabulary for the entire unit. So it does tell you to review these to achieve mastery, but if you wanted to incorporate vocabulary somewhere else, that's your little cheat sheet. And it does tell you here the things that it's going to be teaching. So it's going to be teaching about the figurative language, tone, similes and metaphors, propaganda, burning books, the value of books, logical fallacy, slippery slope, bandwagon appeal, genetic fallacy. And then in the back here, it also is going to cover primary sources. And we haven't done this unit yet. We've done the first two, which is why I'm not showing you those, just because they have my kids' work written in them. I just randomly grabbed one that I haven't even looked at yet, but we've definitely used this curriculum quite a bit. Okay, and so then after that, it shows you a materials list for everything you're going to need for the entire unit, assuming you're going to do all the projects. We don't do all the things. For us, I pick and choose, so we may not need all these things. So I don't really look at that. I just, the week ahead, when I make my list of what they're going to do that week, that's when I look for what materials we need. It's usually like colored pencils, not much more for the older kids. For the younger kids, it's like maybe you need construction paper or something. At the beginning of each day, generally a lesson is 1 day unless it shows in parentheses that it's 2 days. Your student is going to read this little overview. They have ideas to think about and then things to know where they might go over something that's mentioned in the book. For this, it's telling you about figurative language. And the first lesson, generally, you are not actually reading the book. Okay, it's like an introduction to the book. So for the book Thief, they're telling you historically it takes place during World War II. So it wants you to do some research on World War II. They do have links included. So you can go to movingbeyondthepage.com/links/74.99, and that will bring up some basic information about the war, or you can source your own books or have your kid do their own internet research. But they just want them to learn a little bit about World War II so they understand what's going on during this book. And then they're also having them do some research on the author. And then a lot of times their projects will have options. So for this one, they can do either option 1 or option 2. Option 1 would be creating a poster. You would design a poster to advertise the event of Marcus Zuzak, the author, coming to speak about the book Thief. Or option 2 is creating a radio promotion. So then you would record a promotion advertising the author coming to speak about their book. So one thing I really love about Moving Beyond the Page is they have all of these like creative aspects where kids can get creative while they're reading the book. And I really, really like that. Most of my kids really like this. My son wouldn't want to make a poster, but he would love to make an ad. Or if he could make a video ad, that would for us, we'll probably have him make a video ad because he loves making videos. He uses CapCut all the time and creates his own videos. So I like that it has options. I generally let my kids pick whichever option they want. I don't pick for them. I'm like, choose one. You do what you want to do. And then they do it. And they can read the instructions and be pretty independent. I'm wrong. Lesson 1, day 2, they do actually start reading. See, that doesn't make sense to me. I feel like this should just start on lesson 2 then, because usually lesson 2 is when they start reading, but that's okay. So here's the reading and questions. I always have my kids do this part. Obviously they do the reading. So it says to read the prologue and part 1 to the end of chapter 3, The Woman with the Iron Fist, page 44. And then it has these 3 comprehension questions. Most of the time my kids write in their answers, but sometimes we just do it verbally, especially if my kid is having a distracted, unmotivated day where they're really struggling to get things done. If you watched my October check-in video, I talked about how my 8th grader specifically struggles to get things done sometimes, and sometimes is still doing school at 4 p.m. And it's because he's distracted or not motivated and taking a lot of breaks. On those days, sometimes I'll just be like, hey, let's go do the questions together. You did the reading, sit down, let's do the questions, and then we'll just talk about them. And you can see there's no answers here. So you're like, Aileen, but I didn't read this book. Okay, well, in the back, which yes, technically your kid could look in the back and know the answers to these books, these questions, but then you would know because they would be probably copying them word for word. But they have the discussion questions and the answers in the back of the book for everything. Okay, and then for day 2, Death is a narrator, author interview. Death is the narrator in this book. I've never read this book. Now I feel like I need to read it. So you would do activity 3, which is probably a worksheet. I want to show you. Here it is. It's about personification. So then they would do this worksheet. There's quite a few worksheets. So that's one thing about them. So here's the activity 1 about world wars when they were doing research on World War II. Moving beyond the page has a lot of worksheets, and that is very overwhelming to some people, and that is a turnoff to some people. And I understand, because it's very overwhelming, and we've chosen not to move on and use this curriculum for a following year because of that in the past. I'm happy that we're using it this year, because I really wanted a year where we were digging into novels and doing all the things, but I am not doing all of these worksheets. We're not doing all of them. I'm picking one assignment to do with each reading in question. And I also look at our calendar, and if we have a lot on the calendar that day, maybe we don't do a worksheet. We just do the reading and the comprehension questions, and that's also okay. Okay, so now we're on to similes and metaphors. So they're going to read some, they're going to answer some questions, they're going to do this pre-reading, and you can see here they need cardstock, they need a dictionary, colored pencils, a stapler, and scissors. So they're going to do something crafty. Symbolizing vocabulary, and I will show you. So they're going to be creating a book with symbols for the vocabulary words. And then activity 2 is on similes and metaphors. Okay, so, and for the symbolizing vocabulary, they do have a worksheet to kind of figure out what their symbols are going to be. But I think they're supposed to also make it into a book. My kid wouldn't want to make it into a book. He's not a crafty kid, so I wouldn't make him do that. But my 6th grader would absolutely want to make it into a book, so she would do the book. So it depends on your kid, and I think it's okay to pick and choose. And then here is a similes and metaphors, so it's another worksheet teaching about that. And then you're on to the next day's lessons, okay? And so some units are going to be very reading heavy, where they're reading for a really long time. And then some units are going to be less, depending on the size of the book, because regardless of the size of the book, the unit still takes the same amount of time, which is about 3 weeks. So it may be for your family that you want to spread that out and have them only read half of the reading assignment if it's taking too long, if they're feeling overwhelmed, and do less novels. Because I think there's 12 novels. Does your kid need to read 12 novels in a year? Maybe they do. Maybe they only need to read 6 or 8 novels in a year. You know your kid, and you know what your goals are for them educationally. And so I think it's okay to just pick and choose which books they're going to read. It's okay to spread it out. And it's also okay if your kid works well with doing all of this work and all of these worksheets every day. Do it. Do what works for your kid. Just remember that we make the curriculum work for us. We do not work for the curriculum. And that's something I have to remind myself of all of the time, because I don't want to get into this mode where I'm not focused on my child and their education, and I'm focused on getting everything done and checking all of the boxes with this curriculum. Because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm using it as a tool. And we're really enjoying it as a tool this year. Okay, so lesson 3 is on burning books. They're going to need a dictionary and an encyclopedia. It's talking about the Nazis. They're going to learn about the Nazi Party. Here's your questions, and then the activities. It's talking about historical references. It's got a whole bunch of links for them to review. Activity 2 is on propaganda. And then they're showing a picture of the Nazi flag. And then it always has a wrap up and a life application at the end of each lesson as well. I don't think I showed that to you before. And then it is also including a link if you wanted to look at poster art from World War II. So here is the page on historical references. And the page on propaganda. I think this is all great stuff. I want my kid to learn all of this, but for us, he's not going to do all of this, if that makes sense. Sometimes they have pages where you have to go back and track throughout the book. So this one is tracking Nazi propaganda throughout the book. So you're going to come back and add to this throughout the unit, and it will tell you when you need to go back and add to it. Sometimes it's like a plot diagram. Sometimes it's information about characters, but they do tend to have these pages within them, which I think is good. Lesson 4 is the value of books. We've got our ideas to think about, all of that. You're going to be doing worksheet on special books, 5 senses writing, and we're on to lesson 5. So it says, after you've completed today's reading on the propaganda page from lesson 3, record any examples of propaganda that you noticed in those pages. So they're having them go back and add to the propaganda page. And it just keeps them thinking about it. It keeps it on their mind as they're going through the book. Okay, so activity 1 is on German laws. And in this one, they actually have an optional extension for the kids that are really interested. For me, all of this is optional. All of it is optional. It's all optional. You choose what you want to do. You want to do it all? Do it all. Do it all. Don't let me stop you from doing it all. But also, you don't have to do it all. So you choose. You choose. It's all optional. All of it. So, and then it's talking about descriptive writing and being specific. It's referencing how you had learned in lesson 4 about writing about the senses. Here's your page on laws passed by the Nazis. Now it is working on the descriptive writing. More on the descriptive writing and so on. Think tic-tac-toe. 3-day final project. Again, 3 days, that's optional because we don't do everything from the final project for us. Well, that's not true. My 3rd grader does everything, but because I'm also using EIW for my 8th grader, he's doing writing and grammar from EIW, so we don't do everything in the final project. So just keep that in mind. Pick and choose what you want to do. Do it all, don't do it all. So you're going to need the book. You're going to need cardstock or construction paper. You're going to need scissors, and you're going to need poster board. It's got ideas to think about again. It's got reading and questions. It wants you to read the rest of part 10 and the epilogue. There's no questions for this reading. For your final project, you're going to play a game called Think Tic-Tac-Toe. And they use this in other levels too, because my 3rd grader had this in one of her final projects. You're going to look over the Think Tic-Tac-Toe board, which I'll show you in a moment, and the details found on the Think Tic-Tac-Toe description sheet, and select an activity from each row to make tic-tac-toe. So you get to pick. Today you'll complete 1. So that's day 1, you complete 1. Day 2, you complete 2. Day 3, you complete 3. Tic-tac-toe board. And here is the description. So this is, the board is just for funsies, but then there's more detailed explanation on what each of those squares means. And there's a lot of choices, so it gives a lot of descriptions on what to do. And then it's talking about making a propaganda poster. And so here's some kind of a worksheet for you to fill out for that. Okay. And then, that's the only worksheet actually that comes with the Think Tic-Tac-Toe. Is for the bottom right corner is the propaganda worksheet. The rest, you don't need a worksheet. The other thing I want to show you, and this is not for every book, because not all of them have this, but it's saying activity 4, the movie version, and it challenges you to either watch the trailer for the movie or watch the entire movie. And it wants you to think about how the movie differs from the book. Do the characters look the way that you thought that they would look? If you watch the full-length movie, consider whether the movie would impact the viewer as much as the book impacts the reader, and discuss those issues with your parents later today. Books with movies are like our very, very, very favorite thing. And so, of course, we're going to watch the movie 100%. And I will probably read The Book Thief, even though I'm not going to pre-read all the books. I will probably read The Book Thief so that I can have that discussion with my kiddo and we'll watch the movie. So yeah, if there is a movie version, they may suggest that. Sometimes it goes in a different order. So for 6th grade, they have The People of Sparks, which is the 2nd book of the City of Ember series. And The City of Ember is a movie, which was a little confusing because it was like, okay, we're reading the 2nd book in the series, but that's what it had us do. And I think level 7 Poppy might be the 2nd book in a series also, from my memory. It ends up working out, but what we had to do, or what it challenged us to do, and we absolutely did it because we love a good movie, is for my 6th grader, we watched The City of Ember the night before she started the People of Sparks unit. And then I ended up buying her the whole book set so that she could read the other books if she wanted to, which she says she's going to. She really, really liked the movie. that is it for Moving Beyond the Page 8th grade. If you have questions or want to see a flip through specifically of one of these units, please let me know. I'm happy to make another video. Someone had requested this, and not this specific one, but me to do a flip through, and I'm sorry it took so long. I do also have all of the language arts units for ages 7 to 9 and 10 to 12. So I'm happy to give you a flip through of any of those you would like to see as well. And if you are still here and watching this video, I would love it if you could give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Bye.